Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. I got to tell you, I'm really super excited to be here today presenting to the Batten School of Leadership. My name is Kurt Buehlmaier. So the first thing I want to ask you is, will you volunteer? I need some volunteers, okay? And if you want to volunteer, I need you to stand up, okay? All right, I see some people standing up, some people not. So the people that are standing up, you just served your purpose as a volunteer. You just identified yourself as a possible leader. Okay, so wonderful. So thank you very much. Sit down. Not as nerve-wracking and as anxiety-ridden as you thought it was when I asked you to volunteer. Okay, but leaders are willing to step outside of their comfort zone and, volunteer for things and do things and take risks. So that's the first step in the first lesson. So when I think about leadership and I talk about leadership, basically, you have two choices. You can be a leader or you can be a follower. So I think if I've got those two choices, why not be a leader? That doesn't mean you have to be a leader in every single situation and every minute of your life, because it's a lot harder to be Batman than it is Robin. However, you can be a leader and have leadership characteristics every minute of every day. And good leaders actually know when to step aside and let somebody else who's an expert in a certain area serve as the leader. Leaders always have a clear purpose of what they're doing. So I would ask you to think about why you're here today. So when people come to events, some people come because they want to, and some people come because they have to. Some people say, hey, my friend said this would be really great, I'm going to come. Sure, why not? Some people were mandated to come. No matter what your reason is for being there, whether you were forced to come or you wanted to come, you should always keep purpose in mind. So why am I here? What am I going to get out of it? I'm going to be here for the next 30 minutes, the next 3 hours. I'm at a 3-day seminar. What am I going to get out of it? What purpose does it serve? Leaders always have a purpose in mind. They know, here's why I'm here, and here's what I'm going to do with the information once I have it. How are you capturing that information? Are you just taking it all in? Are you taking notes? Are you recording it on your iPad or another mobile device? Because what are you going to do with that information? So today, we're talking about becoming a successful millennial leader. How to become a great leader in context of your generational attributes. So there's all kinds of misconceptions and preconceptions and attitudes and stereotypes surrounding the millennial generation. So how do you deal with that and become a leader in that context? So if you didn't have a purpose coming in, keep that purpose in mind. How can I be a leader? And what am I going to do with that? So if I go into a public policy area, if I become a consultant, if I decide to work for a nonprofit, if I decide to go into education, become a psychologist, whatever it is, leadership characteristics are never going to work against you. They're always going to work for you. So keep that purpose in mind. So think about what you're doing next year, the year after, 5 years down the road, and then consider all the information that you're presented with. Instead of being reactive and just listening to the message, really take the message in so it matters to you. What I always tell people is no matter how large an event you go to, one of your goals should be to turn a group lesson into a private lesson. So if you've ever done anything, the first time I ever went skiing, my aunt signed me up for a group lesson. And I had never skied before, and maybe I was a little socially awkward when I was younger, so I was like, I don't know, I don't want to do this group lesson. And it ended up being me and another girl. And that was it. It was the two of us. So essentially what happened was you turned a group lesson, which is also always cheaper, into a private lesson. So I got close to one-on-one instruction. So when you're at an event and you have a Q&A session, or you're in a class, or you're at a work seminar, if you have the opportunity to participate and be active and be proactive, you've taken that group lesson and turned it into a private lesson, and that connects with your purpose. So that's why you're here. Why am I here? I'm here because I started a company because I'm very passionate about helping people. And my vision is that I want to help people and organizations maximize their performance and be professionally and personally happy and successful. I want people to go to bed at night going, wow, what a great day I had, I love my job. And I want people to wake up and jump out of bed because they're so excited about what they do. I don't want anybody I work with to ever work a day in their life because they love what they do so much that it does not feel like work. It does not feel like a job. That's my vision. That's what I want to do. So I hope to provide you guys with inspiration and information that allows you to live your dreams and live passionately. Another reason I'm here, specifically to this topic, is because I was in education for 9 years. And the generation I taught and coached for 9 years was the millennial generation. And my oldest students right now are 31 years old. So I have seen people transition from right now, the sixth graders I taught are seniors, fourth years in college. And my oldest students are 31. So I've seen people make the transition from student to career, and actually a few different jobs at this point. So I know what obstacles they've had to overcome, and I know what has facilitated their success. So that's why I want to spread that message. Additionally, because people tend to tell me I look young, I have personally experienced age discrimination. And it's really hurtful. There was a job I had one time, and I was talking to this woman, and she said to me in one of the most condescending tones I've ever heard, "Well, how old are you?" I was like, oh my God, like, did you really just say that to me? And what am I supposed to do with that comment? Am I supposed to go, oh, you know what, you're right, let me step outside and I'll magically age myself about 15 years and I'll come back in and we can continue the conversation, right? There's nothing I can do about that. If you're young, all right? And if you don't have the experience, you have to compensate in some way. Be passionate, ask questions, whatever the case is. So I don't want anybody to run into the same roadblocks that I had. And because I worked in this area and I made a transition from education to the business world to individual entrepreneurship, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what it takes to be successful in the context of your generation. So right now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of your dream job. It might be what you're lined up to do next year, 2 years from now. It might be what you wanted to do when you were 6. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a pro athlete. I want to be a movie star. I want to be president of the United States. And I feel fortunate enough to be presenting to the School of Leadership and Public Policy at one of the country's top universities, because right here might be sitting the next president of the United States of America. And that's really exciting for me. So think of your dream job. For me, it would have been catcher for the New York Yankees. And injuries kept that from happening. So right now, I'm in my number 2 dream job. Considering that I can't play for the Yankees, I love what I do. Right now, I'm working. If someone called me and I had to answer the phone, besides it being extremely rude, and they said, "What are you doing?" Technically, the answer would be, "Well, I'm working." But it doesn't feel like work. Nothing that I do right now feels like work. So I do have my dream job. So I want you to think of your dream job. Do you have it? Have it in your head? What is it? A teacher. What about you? An inventor. Okay? I'm not sure. What did you want to be when you were 6? A movie star. Okay? So your dream job, and I say dream, I see take reality out of it. Okay? Take reality out of it. So an inventor, a movie star, a teacher. Don't think in the confines of, well, here's what I'm studying and here are the jobs that are available. Think about your dream job. Okay? So maybe it's that, maybe it's not, but you got your dream job in your head, right? Think about your nightmare job. All right? What is the last thing that you would want to do? This is the job that you would take only if you had to put food on the table for your family. For some people, it's in the medical field because they can't stand the sight of blood. For some people, it's janitorial services because they don't like cleaning up after things. For me, it's actually a 9 to 5 in an office. Because of my personality and the way I think, I just can't handle that, and I want to help people. I went into teaching because I wanted to help people. I studied psychology in college because I wanted to help people. And I do what I do now as a motivational speaker and a personal coach and a consultant because I want to help people. And if I don't have the opportunity to do that, it's really a nightmare situation for me. So, I ask you again, what is your nightmare job? Customer service. McDonald's cashier. I get that one a lot. A lawyer, okay? So a lawyer is a prestigious job, right? And there's probably people sitting here right now and they say, "Oh, I'd love to be a lawyer. That's my dream job," you know? Or, "I would hate to be a teacher. That's my nightmare job." So there are people sitting here right now and your dream job is their nightmare job and vice versa, and we're all over the spectrum. But I'll tell you right now what the differentiating factor is, and it's people. People are the difference. So think about the people that you love and care about most in your life. Family members, boyfriend, girlfriend, siblings, people you've worked with in the past, your friends, whoever they are. If you've had a job before, your favorite colleagues, the people that have made you better as a person, and imagine they're working with you at your nightmare job. So you're a lawyer, okay, and you're working at McDonald's, and you're doing something you hate, but you work with all those people. Is that a nightmare job anymore? No. It might even be a dream job. Flip it around too. Take the people that you despise. Maybe they're people that you work with and you hold yourself to really high standards and they don't. And everything falls in your lap. Okay? Maybe it's that, they have a different philosophy and they don't appreciate diversity in the workplace. They're really closed-minded. Whatever the case is, okay? People that you've come across in your life and you say, I don't want to spend any time with those people. They're negative and they take away from me reaching my potential. Now they work with you every day. Do you still want to be an inventor or a teacher or a movie star if that's who you have to work with day in and day out? Probably not, okay? I'll tell you, in 2012, I lost my home in Hurricane Sandy. And after roads opened up and I was able to go back down there to see what was left, I called a friend of mine and said, hey, do you want to come down and help me? And then also, once we're done at my place, we can go and help other people that need help. And he said, absolutely. And he grabbed 4 guys that he worked with that I'd never met before in my life. And we piled in my minivan and we drove down there. And I obviously was very appreciative of the fact that they were willing to give up their time to do this for me and for others. I wanted to take care of my stuff, but I wanted to help others as well. So we spent about half the day cleaning out my place. So seeing about 60 to 75% of everything that I had ever owned and accumulated over the first 34 years of my life and taking it and throwing it out to a curb. And then the next half of the day, we went and we volunteered at this woman's house. And we couldn't believe the mess that was at her house. It was unbelievable. And after about 15 minutes of really looking around and going into different rooms, I realized that she was a hoarder. So in addition to the fact that she got knocked out by a hurricane, she had a ton of stuff that she didn't need. About 5 minutes after that, the lovely smell we were experiencing, we discovered that she lived up against the sewage treatment plant. So everything that we were working in that day was old, hoarded material covered in sewage. Not your ideal day, not your dream job for sure, okay? At the end of the day, there's a picture of the 6 of us at my friend's mother's house, and I'm not wearing pants, another guy's not wearing pants, another guy's not wearing shirts because they were covered in sewage. But we all have our arms around each other and the biggest smiles on our faces. And for me, you would think, oh, what a nightmare. You had to throw all these things you lost. You had to work in an environment where there was sewage. You had to cover a sewage-soaked mattress out to a curb. What a nightmare. And in actuality, because I felt like I was doing something good and I was working with great people that were willing to help me and help others, it was a great day. And I have it as a positive memory in my head. So what I urge you to do is look around at the people next to you and realize that this is your network. And besides the messages that you receive all the time about, oh, you have to network, and it's not what you know, it's who you know, it's also finding your people and the people that can drive you forward and make you better as a person. Because that's really what makes a dream job. An evangelist. So an evangelist is someone who preaches the message, right? As advocate of something. You really stand behind it. If you think about politics and you think about someone running for office, the people that go out and campaign for them and hand out flyers and put the signs in the ground, they're probably actually more passionate about the candidate than the candidate is about themselves, ironically, right? They're an evangelist for that candidate. That's what you want to create in your life. So this is something that steps outside of the bounds of your generation. That woman that I had the conversation with, there was nothing I could do to deal with the fact that she had a problem with me because of my age. But what I could do is create evangelists all around me so that never becomes an issue. So it's, well, they're young, but, okay, there's no issue to it. No one sees you as young anymore because of these recommendations that you get. You can be an evangelist for other people. You can be an evangelist for a company. So if you think about the recommendations you make, people recommend mechanics, doctors, hairstylists, and it's usually on the person, and that's what gets people to go there. People will look up ratings, and they'll say, oh, I saw these 3 doctors. Do you go to any? Oh, I go to this doctor. They're wonderful. And you disregard the surgical ratings of a doctor because the person is a nice person and got the recommendation from someone that you trust. And people do that. Studies show that people take and go to a doctor based on their bedside manner rather than their success rate in surgeries, which is just crazy to me, but it just shows the power of people and how they can spread a message. I consider myself to be an evangelist for Amazon.com and for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Anytime something comes up about Amazon, oh yeah, music, I'm spending too much money on my iTunes. Hey, did you know that Amazon Prime has a service that allows you to have free music? And Amazon Prime is only $99 a month, and I go on and on and on. I'm not getting paid by Amazon. I sure wish I was, right? But I'm not. But I believe in their company. I believe in their product. I believe in their customer service. So I spread that message. And then people go, oh, yeah, I'll have to do that. I just spoke to a friend of mine the other day. And he's like, oh, I'm thinking about getting Netflix. And I said, do you order stuff online a lot? And I have Netflix, nothing against Netflix. He said, yeah, I do. I said, well, Amazon Prime's $99 a year, and you get the streaming, you get the books, you get the movies, you get the free shipping. Oh, I didn't know about that. And he signed up that day. Another people, I tell people about smile.amazon.com. It's the same thing as Amazon, but it's through a different website, and everything you purchase, Amazon donates 0.05% to your favorite charity. Why wouldn't you do that? You're buying the same shirt, the same whatever, same price, but something going to your charity. And my charity is St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which is trying to eradicate cancer and other horrible diseases in children. And when some child comes down with some horrible, life-threatening disease, they cover everything for the family. The medical treatment, the hospital and hotel bills, absolutely everything. It's a wonderful cause. And now I've just connected those two things, and I've told you about that. So maybe some people here go home and they sign up for an Amazon Prime account, or they choose to shop there now as opposed to somewhere else. Maybe they go and sign up for a Smile account, and maybe they pick my charity. And I'm not getting anything out of it other than the fact that I believe in it. That's what you need to create around you, an evangelist for Mike and Sally and Joey and Tahir, right? That's what you need to do. You need to create these evangelists. It extends beyond your age. So I want you to consider for the rest of this talk that you are a tree. Consider this metaphor, this analogy. And you're a fruit tree, right? So there's two main parts of a tree. There's the fruit and the roots, okay? The fruits and the roots. Think about it like that. People care about the fruits, right? If I'm starving, I need an apple. That's what people care about. They don't see the roots. The roots are below the surface, and people don't even think about them. But with the roots, what happens to the tree? It dies. If it dies, there's no fruit anymore. So who you are as a person, oh, they're really nice. They're compassionate. They're intelligent. They're kind. That's the roots. And at the end of the day, no one cares. Because if I drop dead, well, not drop dead, hopefully. If I drop down here on the floor having a heart attack, do I care how nice you are? Or do I care if you can save my life? I care if you can save my life. I care about your fruit. I don't care about your roots. However, if you don't cultivate those roots, then the fruit goes sour and nobody wants it. But just keep that in mind. So when you say, oh, well, I didn't get the promotion, I didn't get the job, I don't understand why my boss, I have a mortgage, I have kids, I have this. Those are your roots. They don't care. What do you do for them? Do you perform? As you leave college and you enter the business world, realize that people are going to judge you on your fruits rather than your roots. Okay? So your fruits show your age. People make a judgment about that. Age to me is a number. I've had students in the past that have been 13 or 14 years old and have probably exceeded me in maturity because of what they've had to do, because they've lived in a single-family home where a parent was drug addicted and they had to take care of their four younger siblings. So at 13 years of age, you really have the maturity and the responsibilities of someone who's 43. Am I going to judge them by that number? No, I judge them by their life experience. I shouldn't judge them at all. I should let myself get to know them, see what their performance is, because that's what things are really about, and make my decision then. And then I can really dig deep, get to know them, and understand their roots and where they came from. So keep that in mind. So I got to tell you, I'm so excited to be here and talking about this because you guys are going to take over the world. I'm from Generation X, which is between you guys, millennials, and baby boomers. And I feel like my generation was stuck. I feel like baby boomers had the opportunity to change the world. They got involved in civil rights. They protested Vietnam, right or wrong. They had the power to affect social change. You guys have the power to do the same thing because of sheer numbers, because of the population size. Right now, 1/3 of the U.S. workforce is millennials. In 5 years, it'll be 50%. And in 10 years, it'll be 75%. So regardless of what people think about you and what your proclivities are and your work style, you guys are going to make the rules because it's just a numbers game. So I'm excited to be here and have the opportunity to impart some of my wisdom on you, and then maybe there's something you do to make the world a little bit better, and I played a little bit of a role, and that makes me feel good. So I'm excited. I really am. So let me give you a quick overview of the generations. All right. So the greatest generation, they're about 90 to 105. Maybe you guys have some great-grandparents in that age range. Both my grandparents were in that age range. The greatest generation because of what they accomplished and what they did and their character. That's what they're known as. The oldest folks in the workplace right now are the traditionalists. You might have some professors in that age range. There might be some deans here in that age range. Okay, if you intern somewhere, you probably work with some people, and the higher-ups are in that age range. Though they're traditionalists. 71 is the youngest age there. The baby boomers are between 51 and 70, and these are all a little bit flexible, depending on which theorist you go to and which article you click on online. You might get some different dates, but these are dates that I personally feel comfortable with. But realize, too, that the one end of a generation and the other end of a generation might have a lot of differences. My generation is Generation X, so you can see that the youngest is 33, and I'm 36, so I'm at the edge of that generation. And your generation ranges from 15 to 33, and the one after you is, they're calling Generation Z because millennials are also known as Generation Y, so it's a real easy name to tack on there. But I will tell you that I have a lot of characteristics of traditionalists. I have kind of the passion and drive and innovative thinking that I think you all have as millennials, and so you kind of put it all together. So I don't like that label, okay, necessarily. But people will judge you by your fruits, and your fruits represent your age. You remember high school? For some of you, it's not too long ago. All right. For me, I graduated 19 years ago, so it's a little bit further. But to understand, very easy way to understand the 4 generations in the workplace is to think of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and high school. So you can put yourself back in that mindset and think when you were a freshman and what you thought of the 3 grades ahead of you. When you were a senior, what you thought of the 3 grades behind you. And that's kind of the relationship between the 4 generations in the workplace. You know, as a freshman, you look up to those seniors. Oh, wow, big senior. They're off to college. Look how good they are at this sport. Look how pretty they are. Prom king, prom queen, whatever. So you kind of have this admiration, and there's not a lot of interaction necessarily. Seniors look at the freshmen, and when a freshman makes a mistake, they go, it's just a freshman mistake. They don't look at it and point at them personally and say, oh, they're stupid, they're terrible. You know, they just say, oh, well, you know, it happens at that age. I remember making that mistake. So there's actually a pretty good relationship, and a lot of times, you know, some peer relationships develop. Peer leadership, for example. Those grades that are right ahead of you or right behind you, there's where all the finger pointing starts, right? Well, we can do it better than they did it, or they're never going to do it as well as we did. There's a lot of that, and it's the same thing with the generational finger pointing that occurs. So just think about that. Traditionalists, quick fact about them, they control 75% of the country's wealth. 75%. Okay? Well, they've had longer to accumulate it, but at the same time, the fact that they control so much, they probably know a little something. So the negative aspects that get thrown onto them, oh, they're technological dinosaurs, and they're not, adaptable to change. I don't care what they are. If they control the money, they're doing something right. We need to learn from them. And every day, thousands upon thousands of them are retiring. And we have to capture and utilize the information and experience that they have to our benefit and the benefit of the whole world, really. Baby boomers. Maybe your parents or grandparents are in the baby boomer generation. 1 in 4 baby boomers is actively disengaged, which means they pretty much hate their job. So the nightmare jobs you thought about before, take that job and throw in all those nightmare people. And that's someone who's actively disengaged. No generation is more disengaged than the baby boomer generation. So when we talk about engagement, right now there's about 100 million workers in the United States. Of those workers, 20% are actively disengaged. 20% hate their job, don't want to get out of bed in the morning, and when they get there, they spread misery. They tell people how horrible it is to work there. You should quit. I can't wait to quit. They fantasize about how they're going to quit their job. And maybe you've had a job like that over the summer or an internship, and you're like, I just got to push through, but man, I can't wait. You know, the lottery fantasy. If I won the lottery, here's how I'd quit. Those are actively disengaged. That's 20%, okay? That's crazy. 30% love their job. 30% is the dream job with the dream people. They're engaged and they want to move things forward. They're passionate. They're the people that get stuff done. Worldwide, that's only 13%. 13%. And 50% are just, whatever. They go through the motions, okay? They get the job done in their own time, but they're not going to win any awards. So I know my perception of the working world when I was in college was a little bit different. Obviously, it has to be. But isn't that kind of sad to you? You know, you have these expectations and you have this energy as a college student, and I'm paying all this money and I have these wonderful professors and this great internship and these great classes. I'm going to set the world on fire. And then you find out something like this. It's like, oh man, I don't understand. And you might get into a position, you might get stifled by the system. You might get stifled by a supervisor that is threatened by the amount of energy and passion you have. And I'm here to tell you, don't get rid of that. Just channel it and present it a little bit differently, and we'll talk about how. One of the ways you can move past that is to be positive. No one likes anybody who's negative. Nobody. If you think about Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, is he the funniest comedian in all the world? Because The Tonight Show is the big stage, right? It's the biggest nighttime show. It's not the late show or the late, late show or the I really should be asleep show. It's The Tonight Show. It's a very big deal. And he got the job. Is he funnier than anyone else? Not necessarily, but he is one of the most positive people I've ever seen. If he's faking his positivity, then he deserves some kind of major acting award. Because if you've watched any show, he is positive from start to finish. He gets so excited when the people come on a show. It's like he's a little kid, you know, interviewing his idols. And that's what attracts people to him. He's very funny, but it's his positivity that I think people are attracted to. No one wants to hear the negative stuff. You walk into the room, you ever say to somebody, hey, how's it going? And you get a, it's Monday, or a, it's going. Does that do anything? Does that make you go, oh, I'm really sorry about that. Let me do whatever I can in my power to help you change your mind. No, you go, I don't want to associate with that person and have them bring me down. Okay? You want people who are positive. So little tidbits of advice that I'll give you. Don't talk about hating your job, even if you do. Because maybe you have to move into an entry-level position, and you're smarter than some of the people, all the people you work with, but you're stuck and you're stifled. What benefit, back to the very beginning, what purpose does it serve to talk about hating your job? Is it going to improve your position in some way? Probably not. Then it has no purpose. Don't do it. It puts you in a bad mood, which makes you perform not to your capability. Don't talk about someone else being incompetent. Again, what is the purpose of doing that? Is there a purpose that benefits you? I don't know what it can possibly be, but if there is, go for it. But I promise you, there probably is not. And don't talk about your money, okay? Oh, I don't get paid this much. You might be complaining to somebody who makes less than you do. You might not understand the full ramifications of what goes into sustaining a business, you know? And if you're talking about, oh, well, I make this much money, you've put a different perception on things, and you've made people think of you differently. Again, there is no purpose. There is no benefit. So just little tidbits. Stay positive and consider everything you say, especially when you're a millennial that people think negatively of, is under a microscope. So what purpose does it serve? My generation have been voted the best workplace leaders. Don't we feel good? But, little caveat, we're not in leadership positions because we're the cynical generation. We either don't want to be in leadership positions because we don't believe in leadership, or we don't believe in the existing leadership structure, and we don't want to be a part of that system, or we're being blocked. And that's when you talk about the sophomore not liking the junior. We don't like baby boomers because of that population growth. New management positions popped up that weren't there before. Your professor went from being someone in their mid-40s to mid-20s. Your bank vice presidents went from being in the 30s to the 20s. And they're still in those positions today. So there aren't those available openings for Generation X folks to be in leadership positions. And that's part of what makes them cynical, too. If you've ever seen the movie Fight Club, There's a speech that Brad Pitt gives about, hey, they told us we were going to be movie stars and rock gods and athletes, and we're not, and it's starting to really get us angry. That is like the Generation X theme. Your generation, the millennials, are the most overeducated and underemployed generation in history. So what that does to you, and I encourage you not to get jaded by it, is it makes a message. I pay all this money for my degree, I've got these great professors, I've got these innovative classes, I've got these wonderful speakers that come and talk to me, okay? But I go in and I get this entry-level job that I could have done when I was 13 years old. So I don't understand, and I have to pay all this money back, and why would I make such a huge investment and not get some kind of return? And that can really make you jaded. Some of the older millennials that I know that I taught are at that stage, and it really upsets me because just wait it out a little bit more. You're going to control the workforce. You're going to be able to change things and make them happen and really learn from your education. In the classroom, real-life experience, summer internships, study abroad, whatever it is, really embrace that and keep in mind that purpose. You guys familiar with George Carlin, comedian? Okay. He has this one skit about idiots and maniacs. And what he says is when you're driving, everybody's an idiot or a maniac, right? If they're going faster than you, they're a maniac, you know? You're driving, someone cuts by, oh, look at this maniac, all right? If they're going slower than you, they're an idiot, okay? That's what we do. We label everybody. Obviously, if everybody's an idiot and a maniac, we're the only perfect driver. No one says, you know, I'm a terrible driver. I'm an idiot, or I'm a maniac. Those guys are all great drivers. No one says that. We put these labels on people. No one ever stops to think that maybe the maniac just heard that a family member was taken to the hospital. Maybe the maniac has to use the bathroom really badly. Maybe that's why they're driving fast and they cut me off. Maybe the idiot was just almost in an accident and is really nervous, so they're taking it slowly. We don't consider those things. In psychology, we call that the fundamental attribution error. We attribute things to the person as opposed to the situation. That's what people do with you. They're attributing your negative characteristics with your generation. So if someone does something wrong, oh, it's because they're young and I don't want to hire them now, as opposed to the person. So the group hurts you. So the lazy millennial, the entitled millennial, the millennial that can't be bothered to show up, right? They're working against you. So keep that in mind. It's upsetting, but it's reality, the fundamental attribution error. So what you want to do is you want to get out of that, and you want people to see you as you and understand who you are in various situations. What does society do to influence our generation? If there was no difference between the generations, they wouldn't have names. We wouldn't have baby boomer and millennial and all these other names that we have out there, greatest generation, silent generation. So there has to be something to it, right? So the Army, when I was growing up, the Army slogan was be all you can be. And I remember that in the commercials, and be all you can be, right? And you'd hear that, and you would just repeat it, and it would get stuck in your head. And then all of a sudden I remember one day I didn't hear it anymore, and it was Army of One, and now it's Army Strong. What the military is doing when they change that, so if you think about a company that's changed their slogan or changed their branding, changed their logo, do you know how many millions of dollars go into that process? The brainstorming, no, we don't want to use this, we want to use this type of font and this type of color, and this is our vision and this is our message. It's a lot of time and a lot of money. So for the military to spend millions of dollars to change their slogan, there must be something to it. So it's when they were used. It's what generation were they targeting, okay? So you can see that at the baby boomer level, we really start to change and target the individual, but how we message that is a little bit different. Army Strong, to the millennials, there's still that individual aspect, but there's the collaborative aspect too. And so far, you guys are the most collaborative generation. You probably worked in an environment in high school, and maybe now even in college or in your internships, where you, I don't want to say forced collaboration, but for lack of a better word, you've got more group projects, you've got more team projects. And my generation, I saw the tail end of that. So towards the end of college, I got to see that a little bit. But mostly growing up, it was individual. My wife, when she taught elementary school, she wasn't allowed to separate desks and have students sit in rows. She had to have them work at collaborative tables. So even more so is forcing collaboration. So I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to change in a few years to something that promotes collaboration even more, because people don't understand how to do it on their own anymore. And in psychology, some of that is because of social loafing. People want to pretend like they're lifting the heavy couch when you're really doing all the work. Psychology, for example, is another one where you have schools of thought and you can put clear dates and timelines on them. So in the beginning, you had structure and function. Here's what it does, here's how it works, very straightforward. And people said, no, there's more to that. And you got Sigmund Freud, the most iconic image associated with psychology, even though his theories were a little bit out there and a lot of them are invalid or just can't be proven, who said, no, there's a lot more to it than just structure and function. He's the one that said, lay on the couch and tell me about your dreams and tell me about your childhood and all these other crazy things and your sexual impulses and your subconscious desires. Well, yeah, subconscious desires are great. When I was young, I always wanted to prove myself to my father. I looked up to my father so much, and I wanted his approval. So in order to get his approval, I saw there were two routes: get it directly and get it through others. So I would try and do well in sports or in school or be funny. I figured if I could make everyone laugh, then I must be doing something good, and I'd get my father's approval. So as I'm older and I'm cracking jokes all the time and I study psychology, I realized why I did that. It was subconscious when I was growing up, and now I'm aware of it. So do I believe in the power of the subconscious? Absolutely. Can you prove it? No. Therefore, it's not a science. And the early psychologists were physiologists. Okay, they were doctors, and they said, well, no, we need to be a science. We need to be tangible. We need to be able to prove things. So that gets thrown out. What comes out? Behaviorism. Very straightforward and scientific. You do this, and this happens. Cause and effect. Okay? Makes a lot of sense, but then people said, no, there's more to it. There's got to be some thinking involved, right? So if I were to attack you, there's basically two responses. One is you fight back, and one is you run away. Those are your two responses. So behaviorists would say, okay, well, same cause, different effects. Well, no, because there's thinking involved. So if I attack you, and let's say you do the same thing. Let's say you both attack back. You go, oh, cause, same effect. Not really, because if I attack you and you attack me back, maybe you're doing it because you're being aggressive and you think the best way to get rid of the threat is to physically get rid of the threat. Or maybe you're so scared that you attack out of fear. But there's thinking involved, so there's the cognitive evolution. And then you had, well, no, human beings are more than that. We've got a collections of emotion, and they're so important, right? And humanism wanted to hug everybody. And now today you have all these specialized fields like positive psychology. They mirror the generations. Politics, baby boomers, your parents, your grandparents, had about an equal feel of how important wealth was and how important politics were. My generation, look at that drop off, and your generation is even further. When I talked about being excited about your generation, I think this is going to change. I think people are going to get excited about politics anymore because they can affect change. I think, like I said before, Generation X, why do they care more about money? Because that's how they survive. If I make a lot of money, I can take care of myself regardless of what kind of policy is passed. All right? Baby boomers, they could make change. So of course they're going to watch the news and pay attention to political events and vote, because what they do matters, and that's going to change their world. I think, because millennials are going to dominate the population, you guys think differently, that you're going to see the blue and the green start to regulate again, and that excites me. Play with Legos growing up? All right. These are the Legos I played with. I had a big bucket at my grandma's house, and they came in these colors: red, blue, yellow, green, and white, and very few shapes. And what did you have to do? You had to use your imagination. My mother never let me have guns growing up. So, you know what I'd build with Legos? Guns, okay? Automatically. But whatever I could do, I was only limited by my imagination and the number of Legos. Now, you've got sets like this. You've got life-size R2-D2s that you can build out of Legos, okay? Wow, how amazing is that? Look at the improvement. At the same time, what does that do to free play and imagination and thinking and your inventing capabilities? So, as time goes by, is one better than the other? In some aspects, and in some aspects it's the other way around. So we have to consider that. So it's really terrible to point fingers like, oh, well, look at your Legos are terrible. Or to point at the oldest generation, oh, you don't know how to send an email, or you don't know how to text, or you don't know how to use this feature. But, well, you don't know how to fill in the blank because it's always been easy, it's been automated for you. When I was growing up, I remember this phrase quite a bit. We'd go to the store and my mother would say, do you want to come with me or wait in the car? And I can't imagine a mother saying that to a 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 14-year-old nowadays. Cannot imagine it. But for me, it was commonplace. And this was before tablets and phones. You know, I couldn't call my mom in the store and say, hey, I'm bored in the car, or hey, there's this shady guy walking around in the parking lot. I couldn't do any of that. I was just stuck in the car. Good or a bad thing? Developed autonomy, developed survival skills for that shady guy in the parking lot. But it's like, wow, that's crazy. So there's just different perspectives. Some things improve, and some things take away some of our skills. So just keep that in mind. What I want you to do is be the stronger influence. So the past few things that we talked about, okay, society is shaping us. Well, is society shaping us, or are the things in society responding to the changes that we've decided to make? And I say it can go either way. So if it can go either way, I encourage you guys to be the stronger influence. Change the field of psychology. Change the field of technology because you changed it. Don't respond to it. Be proactive, not reactive. The current situation, I think, is really cool. Here's some really interesting job positions that I've come across recently that just blow me away. And for those of you interested in going into anything dealing with the government, the first one, Chief Innovation Officer, I first saw that position in a government agency. So the government agencies are not capturing the middle of the population. They're the two extremes. So the young people that are coming in have an opportunity to make a difference, and they're doing things like creating positions called Chief Innovation Officer. So that inventing type of mindset in a government scenario, in a government environment. Chief Happiness Officer, the company Zappos has that. I think that's pretty cool. Happy employees are productive employees. They're going to make you more money. They're going to build better products. Why wouldn't you have a position like that? And employee experience is very similar. It's not the legal aspects of HR. It's making sure that people are engaged and love their job as opposed to walk around and hate it. And Happiness Hero, there's this company called Buffer. They're worldwide. There's 25 employees. They all work in different countries, full-time remote, and 3 times a year they get together on, in a different country on a retreat. That's pretty cool. And that's what their title is, regardless of what they do. This is upsetting for me. 58% of hiring managers say no plans whatsoever to hire a recent graduate. And I've experienced this personally when I was put in touch with someone through networking. And they said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I do a lot with the soft skills, I do a lot with leaderships, and I do a lot with managing multiple generations in the workplace, which is one of my most popular service offerings. And they said, oh, well, we wouldn't need that. And I said, well, why not? Well, we don't hire anybody for their first job. We try not to hire millennials at all. And I've worked with a couple companies that have said, oh, you've got to help us with our millennial problem. I said, well, what do you mean? Oh, we have to hire them. I said, what do you mean you have to hire them? Oh, we're the only ones who know how to do social media, search engine optimization. Well, first of all, that's not true. And second of all, if you can't hire a good millennial, the problem's with your hiring practices. Because there's a bunch of good millennials. When I first heard about the Frank Batten School of Public Policy and Leadership, I was blown away that we are teaching our young folks this type of information and encouraging them to be leaders. And the people in this program that I've had interactions with, I'm blown away and impressed by your experience and your perspective on life. So this to me is crazy, but it is a reality. So what do you have to do? You have to get people to see your fruit differently, right? Develop those roots, give them a fruit that they want to eat, and you will transcend your generational characteristics. Do these things matter to you? Does meaningful work matter to you? Do you care about what you do as a profession? Okay. Because if you ask the average baby boomer, they would have said, no, money, security, stability. Right? Volunteering, does that matter to you? There are millennials that won't take a job because they don't agree with the company's volunteer policy. Like how many days a year can they take off to volunteer for their favorite charity? I think that's awesome. And some people are like, oh, they come in on their interview and they want to know about, how many days they have off. Well, why wouldn't they? It's their life. They just killed themselves for 4 or 5 years in college and graduate school and spent all this money. Why wouldn't they want to have some time off to do things that they love and care about? Don't you want to encourage that type of passion so that it spills over into your workplace? And professional growth, same type of thing. So do not give up on this. Do not get jaded. Do not let people take that away from you. One of the biggest problems, and I touched on it earlier, since I was born in 1978, the cost of college has risen 1,120%. 1,120%, that is crazy. My college, which I graduated from, 14 years ago, has gone up 200%. Now, it's a totally different school. They've got new facilities and a new exercise center and new programs, but 200% in 14 years, that's crazy. And what are the implications of grad school? Grad school is wonderful. You're learning more things at a higher level, and you might have really cool internships where you travel all over the country, but you're also delaying real life. So what is the life experience that you're not getting because you're still in school? And when you step outside of school, talk to your older siblings and your older friends and the classmates and your fraternity brothers and sorority sisters, and hey, what's it like out there in the real world? And they'll tell you, I wish I had learned this. I didn't learn this in the classroom. So the implications of that, cost of college has gone up, the pressure's on you guys, you've got to be educated, you've got to develop this skill, now you have to have a graduate degree, and then they go, oh, well, you don't have any experience, or you don't understand this. Well, how do you expect them to? You can't just snap your fingers and have the experience that people are talking about. Here's a good example. 2 years prior to 78, in 1976, if you worked a full-time job over the summer, 12 weeks, 40 hours a week, at $2 an hour, you could pay for 150% of the year's cost at UCal Berkeley. And here at UVA, 125%. With a summer job making $2 an hour. Now, if you work a full-time summer job at the minimum wage of $9 an hour, that's the red. 30% for Berkeley, 25% for UVA, and 20% for Michigan. And I will tell you that you are fortunate to be at UVA because the funding gets cut because baby boomers need stuff for their retirement and their medical because they're staying in the workplace longer, so it gets shifted away from education. And UVA recently had to make up $100 million that they didn't get from the state. And they only put a fraction of that on you with tuition increase. So you might go, oh, this is crazy. Why am I paying that much more for school? But they worked hard and they did other things to put most of it in other areas and not put the burden on you. But just look at this. So college degree made a lot of sense to our parents and grandparents when you could pay for it yourself with a summer job. And not even a good summer job, an average summer job, a McDonald's summer job. Now that you can't do that, you go, well, I better get a good job. I better be making six figures right out of school. Speaking of money, one of the best bits of advice I can give you, and it helps you with your generational attributes and coming past those negative characteristics, is financial literacy. That's the biggest thing I hear from recent college graduates is, I wish I would have learned about money. I have no idea how to use my money. Well, let's go back. Who has the money in this country? Traditionalists, people 71 and older. They control 75% of the wealth. So how do you transcend your age? You grab a mentor in the workplace that is in that age range and has money and has saved it over an entire career, and you say, teach me. And now they develop a personal relationship with you. So when someone makes a disparaging comment about you because of your age, you have someone at the highest level saying, no, you're way off. This person's terrific. So you've done is created an ally at the highest level, and you've also learned about how to use money in that real life experience. Why wouldn't you do that? So people go where the money is. College costs me a lot. I've got to make up for it. 7 of the 10 highest professions are in the medical field. The other 3 are in the technology field. And then there's crossover. Oh, okay, I'll be a doctor. The average medical student in 2013 walked out of medical school with $187,000 of debt. So there are doctors like, oh, you must be rich. And it's like, no, I'm still paying back my student loans. So what this does is it forces people into these technical specific areas, and it de-emphasizes soft skills. Soft skills are the opposite of technical skills. If you know Microsoft Excel, if you know how to do heart surgery, those are technical skills. You know how to fix an engine. Soft skills are leadership, conflict management, effective communication, time management, motivation. Those are soft skills. To me, those are a lot more valuable. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of companies are targeting millennials specifically on technical skills. Can I check these check boxes? Can I look at what they studied and their GPA and their transcript and their recommendations and say, yes, I want to hire them, or no, I don't? what their certifications are. To me, that's why millennials are leaving jobs in less than 3 years, and most of them, many of them, in 6 months or less. Because they're not evaluating, are they a good fit for this company? Will they get along? Will they try and find a mentor? Will people understand that the mistakes they make are freshman mistakes and not indicative of their age? It de-emphasizes soft skills. So let me explain soft skills a little bit more. So I got these two friends, one in high school, one in college, Beamer and Bummer. I went to high school with Beamer and went to college with Bummer. Beamer, we were friends in high school and everybody liked him. They just had this natural personality and people were just attracted to him. He was like a natural salesman. You know, some parents saw through him and said, I don't know what this guy's like behind the scenes. But most people just took an instant liking to him. So we went off to college and we lost touch and we ran each other like a year or two out of college. Started talking, and where'd you go? What are you doing now? And he asked me, how did you do academically in college? I said, well, I did pretty well. I got mostly A's and B's, you know. And I said, how about you? He said, I never got anything above a C. And huge smile on his face. And I said, okay, well, key here is he just utilized his soft skills and worked on enhancing those. And we call him Beamer because he had two of them. He was 24 years old. He had two top-of-the-line BMWs, 2 homes, and was making between $350,000 and $400,000 a year in pharmaceutical sales. Natural soft skills translating into success. Bummer was on college on a full scholarship. Not a lot of people get a full academic scholarship. Not a common thing. It's pretty impressive. Maybe more impressive is Bummer graduated with a 4.0. I have a student recently graduated from Temple a semester early with a 3.96. I said, what'd you get, 2 A minuses? And she said, yes, I got 2 A minuses. I was like, oh. Now, if the teachers that gave her A minuses, probably one paper, one project, one exam, maybe had caffeinated coffee instead of decaf and we're in a better mood, she graduates with a 4.0. So it just goes to show you how difficult it is. Things like chance could play a role. Bummer graduated with a 4.0. It took Bummer 6.5 years to get a real job. In the summer to make money, Bummer used to work on a garbage truck. He'd ride on the back of it and pick up the garbage can. They didn't have those automated things that they have now, right? That's what he did. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people, it's their dream job. But that's what he had to go back to. He had to go back to that summer job for money and live at home because he didn't have any soft skills. He had the technical skills on his resume. He had that 4.0. He'd get the interview. He'd never get the job because he didn't know how to relate. He didn't know how to show the prospective employer what he had to offer from a human perspective. So I cannot stress enough to develop your soft skills. Use your network. Go to events like this and develop your leadership skills. Keep your purpose in mind. What is the perception? So maybe you're not aware of it. Perception of your generation, you're lazy, you're entitled, you're obsessed with technology, you don't have any experience. No generation leaving college has experience. That argument does not hold any weight with me. Everybody makes freshman mistakes. It really upsets me when I hear that. Your participation, everyone gets a trophy. We reward mediocrity. And I will tell you that some of that is true. There was a school I worked at that they told you have to teach bell to bell, which means the beginning of class to the end of class should be full instruction. There should be no, okay, here, we got 5 minutes left, do whatever you want. Should be none of that. But they would interrupt the classes on a regular basis to make announcements. Well, logic tells me, if you tell me how important it is to give instruction time, and you're interrupting that, it must be something really important, right? And I remember one announcement was, congratulations to the swim team for coming in 7th place. If that's nationally, okay, pretty good. Nice announcement. Congratulations, swim team. But in a conference of 11 teams, that's horrible. That means they didn't drown. That's it, okay? That's crazy to me. But if I'm sitting there as a student and going, wow, they just interrupted my really important history class to tell me about the swim team, 7th place must be really good. And then you get into the working world and you hand your project in late and it's totally mediocre and you're amazed about why your boss yelled at you and fired you. It's not fair to you. It's not your fault. People talk, oh, well, everyone gets a trophy. Well, the millennials didn't get together when they were 6 and vote and say, you know what, everybody should get a trophy. It was their parents. It was Generation X. It was baby boomers. It was traditionalists that said, we should give everyone a participation trophy. But then you turn around and point fingers and say it's their fault? It's crazy to me. It's crazy. But that is the perception. So how do you overcome that? Have you seen these socks? okay? These blow me away. So logically, again, if it's warm out and you wear shorts, you would want less clothes on so that you're not as hot. You would not wear shorts with socks that come up to mid-calf. And if you did have socks like that, you would push them down. My generation was all about getting as little sock as possible, the ankle sock, the no-show, okay? And now I see people wearing these socks. So I was working with a young man, and he had them on, and I said, what's up with those socks? Are they like special socks? They give you superpowers? Like, what's going on with these socks? So why do you wear them like that? He says, I don't know. Everybody does. Oh. So here's what happens. People that are not open-minded judge you. Oh, that's so stupid. And they judge you. And they go, they don't say that's stupid. They might say that out loud, and in their head they're going, you're stupid. Again, fundamental attribution error, right? But how am I going to sit here and make a judgment on socks when I wore pants like this in high school? Okay? And guess what? These are making a comeback. They were stupid then, they're stupid now. I used to judge if I'd buy them, if my whole head fit in them. Okay? Really dumb. Everybody makes mistakes when they're 17 and they're 18 and they're 16. It's a natural thing. Now, if you keep making them when you're 24 and 25, that's a different story. But you can't blame it on the person and expect them to just know, oh, well, I shouldn't involve myself in this fad or this trend or speak this way or act this way. But there are certain things you should know. I'm here today. I'm in a suit. What I'm saying, would that change if I were in a T-shirt and jeans? No, not at all. Would your perception of me change? Absolutely. So think about the environment you're in and who challenges you. Some millennials are really surprised when they get to work and no one challenges them because they were challenged at a wonderful institution like UVA. And now they get into work and they think, oh, this is so important. I'm making money. They're paying me to do this, and they don't challenge me. You have to set your own standard then. At the same time, you don't know what anybody else's standard is. Steve Jobs' standard of excellence is much different than mine, different than Jeff Bezos, different than Bill Gates, different than the president, whatever. Okay? But you have to understand, I'm working at this job, I'm working at this nonprofit, I'm in a new consulting firm. What is their standard of excellence? And how can I exceed it? You know what that usually involves? Asking questions. So today, your purpose, when we get to the Q&A section, I better hear a lot of questions because that turns that group lesson into a private lesson and lets you understand a level of excellence. What are the expectations of the working world? Well, if you've seen the movie The Internship, or if you've had an internship at Google or know anybody who does, you know that these are real things. They have nap pods in the office. They have slides that go from one floor to another. They've got full game rooms. Conference room tables aren't regular tables, they're ping pong tables. Can I have a discussion about a product or service while playing ping pong? Sure. Is that a lot more fun than just sitting in a room? Yes. So is there any reason not to do it? No. But are most workplaces like that? I worked with a company one time, they brought me in because they had morale problems. Morale was horrible. And they're like, look, we got a ping pong table. And I'm like, why does it have cobwebs on it? You had to sign in and out the paddles in the ball with a timestamp. So everybody was like, well, my boss is going to come to me, why were you playing ping pong for 45 minutes? Well, I wasn't playing ping pong for 45 minutes. I chose to have a meeting with somebody about this product while playing ping pong. There's an old joke about a priest and the bishop, and the priest says to the bishop, can I smoke while I'm praying? And the bishop goes, no, you can't smoke while you're praying. That's ridiculous. And the priest kind of walks away, and he's scratching his head, and he doesn't understand it. And a week later, he comes back to him, and he says, says to the bishop, he says, can I pray while I'm smoking? And the bishop says, of course, my son. We should have prayer in our heart at all times. What's the difference? You're doing the two activities at the same time. The difference is perception. Okay? Makes a huge difference. This should not be your expectation. If you want this as a workplace, then take hold of your energy and your talent and make it. Make it your workplace. Don't react, okay? Be proactive. Decide, I'm going to start something on my own. I'm going to encourage the older people in my office to think a little bit differently and understand how things like this can be beneficial. If you look at the most successful and intelligent people in history, Bill Gates, Einstein, Ben Franklin, you know what they all did when they were tired? They took a nap. Can you imagine what people would do if in the middle of the workday you were like, I'm going to go take a nap real quick? But if you don't take a nap and you're tired for whatever reason, how productive are you being? How many things are you missing because you're not paying attention? What do they tell you when you take your standardized tests? Get a good night's sleep. So if you're tired at work, I want you to keep pushing through and potentially do something dangerous. No, I want you to go take a 20-minute nap and come back refreshed. And also understand, wow, my boss would let me do something like that. What a great place to work. I'm going to tell all my friends to come work here. The grass is always greener if you've got nothing to compare it to. So when you get out and you get your first job and you go, oh, this is horrible or this is great, you only know by comparison. I worked at a factory one summer. And when I say one summer, I mean like 3 weeks. I got a job in this factory, and it was like literally assembly line type of factory stuff. And I was doing stuff in the office. I was like managing people at 16. I hated it. You want to talk about a nightmare job? This was my nightmare job. So I went and I got a job at a restaurant as a waiter and a bartender. And I used to like clear off other people's tables and just proactively bring the bartenders ice. And they were like, well, why are you doing this? And I'd hear people complain. I go, are you kidding me? This is a fantastic job. Because I had a different perspective. So when you get out and you get your job, if you start to make judgments, talk to other people. Talk to people who've been there a little bit longer. Hey, does this change? Does this get better? Does this get worse? Talk to people at other jobs. What's it like at your place? So you'll have a real feel of what it's like at the place you work. Perspective. If I say Gandhi and I asked you to do a little word association, you'd come up with fasting, food. Number one choice, Family Feud, would be peace, okay? You would not say confident, but if you think about what Gandhi did, man, you got to have a lot of confidence to do what he did, to lead a country, to make social changes, to decide, I'm not going to eat and I might sacrifice my life so that something that can happen. I'm going to protest in a non-violent way, even if people physically attack me. That's pretty confident. So I encourage you to shift perception by being confident and humble. Professionally confident, I can do this, I can sell this product, I can get this job done, I can fix your heart, I can teach your children, I can invent a new product, but personally humble, not out there bragging about everything you did. You want to talk about shifting perception and getting people to forget how old you are and just pay attention to what you do as a person? Be professionally confident and personally humble, like Gandhi. So speaking of perception, right? Changing me from a suit into a shirt, to a t-shirt and jeans. Anybody know who that is? Usually people don't. It is Howard Taft, former President of the United States. Most people know nothing about Taft. The one thing I want you to know is Taft was the last president of the United States to have a mustache. Okay? Why is that important? Well, isn't that kind of weird? Like, why was he the last one to have a mustache? Because of perception. When they get their candidates, they say, this is the shirt you should wear, this is the color tie you should wear, this is how you should hold yourself. And when you see them campaigning in the Midwest, they've got the flannel shirt and the leather jacket and the jeans and not the three-piece suit. Okay? It's all about perception. You will not see a political candidate with a mustache because people think they've got something to hide. When you talk about psychology, they're hiding behind that facial hair. Crazy, pointless. Does a mustache affect your ability to do something? If it's magic, it does, okay? But that is our perception. So what I want you to do is I'm going to show an image on the screen, and the first thing that you see, I want you to yell it out. You ready? Okay, I got duck. Over there, I heard in the back some rabbit. Okay. Do the duck people, do you see the rabbit? Rabbit people, do you see the duck? Okay. Some people see a beer. For those of you underage, shame on you. But there's a beer, duck, rabbit, beer. Okay. But it's all about your perception. So if I sat here and I divided the room in two, and I told this side of the room a story about a duck, and I told that side of the room a story about a rabbit, and I pull this up, duck people would all see the duck, rabbit people would all see the rabbit. All right? Same thing, shout out who you see. Thank you. Marilyn Monroe. You guys see Marilyn Monroe? Okay, if you walk to the back of the room, you might. This is a test on nearsightedness, actually. It's a combined image of Albert Einstein and Marilyn Monroe. And depending on how close or far away or what kind of eyesight you have, determines on who you see. Now, can you imagine, do Marilyn Monroe and Albert Einstein look anything alike? Would you imagine ever mistaking one for the other? So you're in a room like this, and you yell Einstein, and someone else yells Marilyn Monroe. You immediately think that person is an idiot. Okay? How could you possibly see Monroe when it's Einstein and vice versa? So you're making a judgment based on your perception. And in this case, your perception is based on depth perception. One more. Tell me what color you see. White and gold, blue and black, right? This was all over the internet. Some people can see both. Some people, it depends what angle you look at it on or how the lighting is. It is actually a white and gold dress, right? Or is it a blue and black dress? We'll never know, right? It is what it is. But people argued and got angry at one another about the color of this dress, which just blows me away. And what happens is, if you think about it, instead of working together, we're working against. So instead of using it as a learning opportunity, and there was a great article about how it allows you some insight into people who are autistic. And how when people are autistic and they say, that sound really bothers me, that taste really bothers me, having all these people around really bother me, and you look at them like they're crazy, well, I don't understand why that would bother you. They're seeing the blue and black when you're seeing the white and gold. So you're so convinced of one thing, and the other thing is their reality. So perception is reality. So if you're being judged on your age, switch it so that you're being judged on your merit. Because how people see you, so how do you change that? Does it matter? Are you going to do a different job in the t-shirt and jeans or in the suit? No. But are people going to perceive you differently if you show up in the suit for the interview? If you give a good handshake? If you look people in the eye? Yes. There's a great baseball movie called Bull Durham with Kevin Costner and Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins was the guy in the Shawshank Redemption. And Costner's brought in at the end of his career to mentor Tim Robbins, who's this up-and-coming rookie with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. And there's this great scene where they're in the locker room, and Costner comes up to Robbins, and he goes, "You have fungus on your shower shoes." And Robbins is like, "Yeah." He's like, "You can't have fungus on your shower shoes." He goes, "Win 20 in the majors, then you grow the fungus back, and the press will think you're colorful. But until then, you're a slob," right? Absolutely 100% true. If he is this winner and people understand he's great and he gives to charity, then, oh, he's just eccentric and quirky and he has fungus on his shower shoes. But coming in, it's a different story. So when you go in for the interview with a hat on or you didn't shave or whatever the case is, you are immediately judged. When you do that 2 years down the line, when you've increased profits by $1 million, it doesn't matter. So keep that in mind. People are like, "Oh, I've got to be me." No, you don't have to be you. You have to be a version of you. Keeping in line with the baseball thing, Derek Jeter, one of the most celebrated people in baseball history, retired last year, and there's all the fanfare around him about what type of person he was and what he did for the game. And one of his teammates, who was 10, 15 years older than he was, said he didn't act like a rookie. Fill in the blank with rookie, replace it, freshman, millennial, new person at the company. Don't act like it, you won't get treated like it. Very simple. How do you overcome age? Be charming. You ever heard somebody use the word charming? Like, that's not a word we throw around a lot. It's one of the best compliments you can give somebody. They're charming. Not a lot of people are actually charming. Are you not going to like somebody who's charming? It's impossible to dislike someone who is charming. So if you learn how to be charming and you let others speak first, you do more listening than you do talking, you ask smart questions. People love when you ask them questions because it allows them to share their experience and expertise. Ask that traditionalist about financial issues. It benefits you more than it benefits them, but it makes them feel good about themselves, which makes them feel good about you. Be prepared. No, don't be prepared. Be over-prepared. Raise that bar of excellence so that you let people go, "Oh, wow, this person is a total rock star." Not this person is a millennial. Not this person is a millennial and a total rock star. This person is a total rock star. They're always prepared. They ask smart questions. They're polite. They're respectful. And the easiest way is to create an evangelist. Get somebody else to sell you by finding a mentor. So I have core values that I believe in, that I promote, and they're all around soft skills. So who's this? Sylvester Stallone. Some people yell, Rocky. He's Rocky. Okay, everybody knows him as Rocky. Any movie, I have kids, any kids movie, if there's that inspirational scene, the guy's got to get in shape, he's got to get ready for the big game, the big fight, what do they play? Rocky song. There's not just one Rocky song, there are two Rocky songs. There's the song, the original from the original movie, and there's Eye of the Tiger. It's an iconic film. Do you know how many times he got turned down to make that movie? Any guesses? 3. 17. 1,500. 1,500 times. Have you ever been turned down 1,500 times for something? No. No. In your life. Do you know what passion he had to have for that? You got to respect that. You have to respect somebody who's that passionate about it. It is a game changer, that film. It changed movies. It changed the way we look at things. It's unbelievable. Everybody knows those movies. And without his passion, it never would have happened. So you can't turn yourself from 23 to 43, but you can turn the passion up from level 23 to level 43. You guys know who that is? Phil Jackson, coached the Bulls, winningest coach of all time, has 11 championships as a coach with the Bulls and Lakers. Winningest season of all time, 1995-96, the Chicago Bulls, 72-10. Might have helped a little bit that he had Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal on his teams, but amazing coach. So knowledge, think about characteristics of knowledge, and I'll tell you that out of all of these, there's one that's that much more important, and you can always utilize it. Did he know how to tell people, here's how you should shoot a jump shot, here's how you should play defense from a mechanical perspective? Of course he did, because he played in the NBA. Did he know how to prepare them and say, here's the practice we're going to run according to the team that we're playing? Of course. Did he say, here's how we're going to attack the game, and this person's hurt, so we're going to adjust our gameplay? Yes. But you know what led him to the ultimate level of success? His ability to deal with people, to lead people. The best year the Bulls had was the first year they brought Dennis Rodman onto the team. So the three big players were Michael Jordan, who is the greatest athlete of all time, Scottie Pippen, who would be known as one of the best basketball players of all time if it weren't for Michael Jordan, and Dennis Rodman, who hangs out with the dictator of North Korea. Okay? Jordan and Rodman probably didn't go out for drinks after the game, but they played extremely well together. How do you manage a player who's so good but is in the shadow of another player, a player who is just a little bit out there and off center, and the greatest athlete of all time, all at the same time? That's what he was able to do. You can learn the mechanics and the preparation of the gameplay. Those are all the technical aspects of your job. The people aspect you can do right now. You can be passionate. You can ask questions. You can prepare yourself. That's what I encourage you to keep in mind. My fall of my senior year of high school, 1995, now all of these items that really never worked that well and the quality was terrible are now in my pocket. If technology has changed that much, then how people relate to technology has changed. And if that's the case, then we have to manage and lead people in a different way. People that embrace that are going to be super successful, and I encourage you to drive that. Don't try and stuff your thoughts down someone else's throat. Don't try and tell somebody how they should change their organization your first week on a job. But just kind of push those ideas along subtly. You know, get to know someone, develop some rapport, find a mentor and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't this be a wonderful idea? And encourage them to get on board with it, and then you'll see some success. But people have to be managed a little bit differently. People change a lot because of the way we respond to things, just like we talked about the societal influences. Have you ever chewed a piece of Wrigley's gum? Okay, where do the Cubs play? Wrigley Field. Wrigley family probably has a couple dollars in the bank. You know what Wrigley started out as? A soap company. They sold soap, and when they showed up, hey, here's this bar of soap, and if you buy a bar of soap, you get a free stick of gum. And guess what? People like the gum better than they like the soap. So the company was smart enough to be flexible and change what they were doing. Blockbuster Video. Do you guys remember Blockbuster Video? Okay. Oh, they'll never go out of business. And Netflix approached them for a partnership early on, and Blockbuster said, get out of here. We don't need you. We're making a ton of money. You'll never be successful. And now Blockbuster Video doesn't exist. They didn't have flexibility. How your professor teaches from one year to the other, how undergraduate school is to graduate school, how your internships are in different countries or with different companies, and then how your job is going to be, you need to maintain that flexibility. The people that are flexible, what happens? You bend, you don't break. Leadership. I could talk about leadership for days on end. I will tell you, they've known about it for thousands of years. You take Alexander the Great, who had conquered the known world by the time he was 30-something, and he said, I'd rather an army of lambs led by a lion than the other way around. I love that quote on leadership. It just shows it's not how many you have, it's the importance of that person who is in charge. I wonder where he got those ideas. Well, one of his teachers was Aristotle. And a leadership quote about Aristotle was, if you didn't learn how to follow, you can't learn how to lead, essentially. So don't jump in there. You might have better ideas than the company you get a job with. You might be smarter than your boss. You might watch them using a dead technology and you have a better idea. But learn how to follow, because I guarantee there's something that they can do well that you can learn from. That's your purpose, right? Take something from them. It's not being unselfish. It's not like I'm going to give them all the credit. Learn from them. Take everything you have, okay, and use it to get information from them to make yourself better. Learn how to follow and you'll learn how to obey. When I was a teacher, and you want to be a teacher, I didn't just pattern myself after my good teachers. If anything, I tried to do what my bad teachers didn't do. I said, oh, these were the bad teachers, this is what made them bad, I'll avoid those things. I'll correct that. So I learned to follow those teachers, and that's what made me good. If you're not familiar with Peter Drucker, get familiar. Okay, management theories, unbelievably far ahead of his time. He didn't use the word managers, he used the word executives. I'm the same way. I don't use the word manager. If I can avoid it, I use the word leader. I don't believe in managers. He said, if you think about management, it's what makes it difficult for people to work. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to ask my manager. Think about when you want to complain. Oh, I'd like to see a manager, because you're not capable enough to make a decision, because we've put a management structure in place that doesn't allow you to do that. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, that's against our policy. Well, instead of saying that, why don't you try and come up with a creative solution? Management makes it hard. You never hear people say, oh, I love my manager. You hear people say, I love, and they say their name. Because manager is like a dirty word. It's like a bad thing. So don't do that. Don't be a manager when you get out there. Be a leader. Your title might be manager. It might be on your business card, but be a leader. When I first started looking into leadership formally, one of the first quotes, besides the couple I showed you, that really resonated with me was someone said, managers do things right, leaders do the right thing. I was like, oh, wow, what a cool quote. Yeah, that sums up the difference between managers and leaders, but something like was wrong with it. Something stuck with me, and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, that's a cop-out. Managers do things right. Good leaders do the right thing. Great leaders figure out how to do both. They don't sacrifice doing the right thing for following policy. So I was working with a guy one time, and his mother had a stroke, and she needed full-time care. So she moved in with him, and he was a software tester, and he was a total rock star. He got 10 times the amount of work anybody else got done in a quarter of the time. He was amazing. And he came to me, he said, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to be home. Like, we've got a nurse, but I have to be home. I'm like, well, do you have to devote a lot of time to her? He's like, maybe 15 minutes a day. I said, well, ask to work remotely. Ask to telecommute. Oh, we don't have anybody that does that. So he goes in and he speaks to his manager. Now, there's two ways this can go. If they're a manager, they will say, well, I'm sorry, we don't have that in the policy. I can't allow you to do that. I feel really bad about your mother. And what happens then is you take that rock star employee and you've lost them. They might not quit until 6 months down the line, but they don't want to work there anymore. They're not giving you their full effort. They're not referring anybody. And when they move on and someone asks them, well, where did you used to work? They tell you what a horrible place it was. The leader says, you're great. I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen, and bumps it up the chain and advocates for that person. And fortunately, that's exactly what happened. And they said, I know we have a policy, but it's not like we sit over your shoulder all day at work anyway. I want you to work from home and take care of your mom. And, you know, as long as the results are still there, which I have no doubt they will be, it's fine. And then they can write in a policy, and they can say it's on a case-by-case basis instead of having someone then take advantage of them, right? But people will just stay boxed in. As an independent consultant, and I call people and I try and get business, one of the biggest challenges is so many people have the authority to say no, but very few people have the authority to say yes. So it's a lot easier, even if you go, this guy sounds great, I'd love to have him come in and do this, to go to your boss and say, hey, I really like to bring this guy in, and then try and justify it and put yourself out there. So I encourage you, please, please, please be a leader. Some leaders around the world and different leadership types. The CEO of Hire was a company that was about this close to bankruptcy, and now they're the top appliance company in the world because he put in this structure where teams manage themselves. They chose their own managers. They competed for talent. So I'd say, I want that person on my team, and here's what I'm going to offer them, and another team would offer them something else, and big performance bonuses. It was a very incentivized place. People wanted to succeed, and they were motivated by that, and it completely turned a company around. He's the navigator. He charts the course. Tony Robbins, an idol of mine, is extremely passionate. He gets people to walk across hot coals. He encourages you to do your best. He's just a light of a person. He just makes you want to be better. He's the inspirational coach. The CEO of Ford from 2006 to 2014, again, took a company that was about this close to bankruptcy. He integrated mobile devices into the car. Ford was really the first one to do that, where you could hook up your Bluetooth and you could hook up Pandora and you can do all kinds of different things. That's thinking outside of the box, and that's taking a car company and adding something to it. He took the company from 97 to 20 products and stopped this, CYA culture where they were afraid to take risks. He is the change agent. And the Pope, okay? This Pope is amazing to me. There are atheists that like this Pope, okay? 1 in 4 Catholics increased how much money they give to the church, and 77% said it was in part due to the Pope. So you talk about, you don't think of a religious figure to be an innovator. That guy's an innovator. He was willing to take changes and say, hey, time is changing. We have to change too. And look, he's getting results. And there's a guy, Ken Robinson. If you don't know about Ken Robinson, there's an amazing, I don't know if it's the number 1 or number 2 most popular TED Talk of all time. If you're going to be a teacher, you have to watch it. He's got a couple different talks on education, but it's all about purpose and process. It's making you understand, and he's very clear, and he's a great teacher. Okay, he's the educator. So I ask you, all right, your face here, which one are you? You don't have to be limited. I try and provide inspiration and information for people. So I try and be an inspirational coach and an educator. These are 5 great things for you to pick from. Bottom line is there are 3 big characteristics that define a leader. You know who that is? J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter books. Everybody of your generation has seen the Harry Potter movies or watched the read the Harry Potter books. There are people that hate reading that I know that have read the Harry Potter books, and that's the only thing they've ever read. She was living in a car, now she's a billionaire. She got results. She understood how to communicate to a different audience, and she inspired. We saw the Lego set before. There's a whole theme park now. It's what she did with creating that universe is incredible. That's a leader. Those 3 things. If you can get results, you effectively communicate to multiple levels, the customers, as well as your colleagues, the young people and the old people, and you're able to inspire those around you, you're going to see a tremendous amount of success. And again, roots and fruits, okay? It gets people to judge you on you and the success you can create around you. Authenticity, okay, I'll tell you a couple things about authenticity. People, I want to be myself. Well, there are different versions of yourself. You should be your work self, your appropriate self. I went in to buy a car, and I don't know if you guys have ever bought a car or gone with your parents to buy a car, but usually buying a car is not a lot of fun unless you can go in with a briefcase of cash and flip it open and go, yeah, I want that one, and I want it in red, and I want this color seats, and pick all your options. That's a blast. But going in and having to haggle and wait for let me go talk to my manager and see what we can do, and are you sure you don't want to trade your car in with us? Nobody likes that. There was a thing in the 80s, Joe Isuzu, and he was like the sleazy car salesman. And Isuzu used that as we don't use that guy, or whatever it is, right? So 2003, I was looking for a car. I went to about 10 different dealerships. We walk into Audi. And here comes the salesman, and he is the opposite of what you would tell a car salesman to be. He is sweating so much that I just thought, I'm like, are you leaking? It was just covered in sweat, spitting all over me, loud. He was the human version of the Tasmanian devil, okay? All over the place. You would never say, here's how you sell a car. Well, I got caught up in his Tasmanian tornado and walked out of there with a brand new Audi because he knew absolutely everything about it and answered all of my questions before I could ask them. He told me that you don't need to use the emergency brake in a stiff shift car because the clutch should, stick, and if it doesn't, you can send the car back and get a full new one because it's a defective part. He told me what kind of sound system it was. He told me according to the, area, the cubic area in the back seat, what items would fit in the back seat that wouldn't fit in the trunk and vice versa. He knew everything, showed me how to drive it effectively, what type of gasoline to put in it. When I sold the car back to another Audi dealership, they said, we never give anybody this much money for a used car, but I've never seen a car in this good a shape. And it was because of this guy. We didn't haggle. I didn't even talk price with him. It was just, here's my price, because he gave you a fair deal, because he wanted your friends and family to come in. He wanted you to be an evangelist for him, and he'd rather make this much on 10 sales than this much on 1 sale. he was authentic. He didn't try and force himself into something that he wasn't. A few months ago, I went to a Kia dealership looking at a car. It's the total opposite. It was the, oh, hey, how you doing? You know, one of these things. And, oh, let me get my manager. And I'm like, I don't want to buy a car today. Like, I literally, it's the first place I went. I'm going to test things. Oh, well, you know, what can we do to get you in this vehicle today? And then one guy comes out, and he needs to get my car insurance to see my VIN number because he wants to buy my car. And I have Ameriprise insurance, which most people have either never heard of or have heard of and don't have. It's through like Costco and American Express. It's wonderful insurance. There I am evangelizing again. But he goes, oh, my girlfriend has Ameriprise. Cool, dude. We're Ameriprise brothers. And I it physically hurt me how phony that was. And if I wanted that car with every fiber of my being, I wouldn't have bought it at that point. So eventually they give up and realize I'm not going to buy the car. And I'm walking out, and they have this beautiful luxury sedan in their showroom. And it's like their new car. And I was like, what's that? Oh, it's comparable to the Mercedes this class, and the BMW this class, and the Lexus this class, but it's $70,000 less. And I was like, really? Now it was 3 guys talking about a car. And if I were in the market for that type of vehicle, I would have bought it right then and there. Because they switched from trying to sell me to being authentic. But can honesty backfire? There's this great story. Guy's in a job interview, older guy. So we talk about generations. And they go, what's your biggest weakness? Which is one of the worst interview questions you could ever ask. And I'll tell you about that later if you want to know. But he goes, I'm too honest. And they go, well, I don't think honesty is a weakness. He goes, I don't give a damn what you think. Right? So honesty can backfire because people have their perceptions. So you going, oh, I'm just going to be me and put myself out there, that might not be appropriate for that work environment with that particular boss at that particular time. So that's not sacrificing in your authenticity. That's just deciding where to display which characteristics. The same way you're different at home, in the classroom, with your friends. You're not being yourself in those environments. You're just wearing different hats. And there are global and cultural considerations. If you think back to the image I told you about, I was so excited about your generation, and it's the pregnant woman with the globe painted on her belly. I chose that image because that's what I see. Your generation is giving birth to a global community. You know, there aren't these barriers that used to exist. Something as simple as a handshake is different in each country. In Russia, a man doesn't shake a woman's hand. He kisses it. In France, I think it is, you give a soft handshake. You don't give a firm handshake. In the United States, you give a firm handshake. And you're supposed to give a handshake regardless of where you are with your right hand and not your left hand, because originally in cultures, when you didn't have, Purell everywhere and antibacterial soap, your one hand was your dung hand and your other hand was your food hand. So if you offered someone your left hand, it would be extremely disrespectful. So I'll give you a generational example. My grandfather, part of the greatest generation, he had polio, okay? A disease that is almost completely eradicated thanks to the efforts of Bill Gates and some others. Talk about an effect you can have worldwide. It's incredible. I go to leave one day. I'm probably 13 or 14 years old, and he's getting ready to leave. And he's got his cane in his right hand, so he's got all his weight balanced here. And he's got a stack of books in his left hand sitting here, so his hand is exposed. So I want to shake his hand and say goodbye to him. Okay, this generation would not hug. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to go for his right hand, so I stick my left hand out. And he looks at me like I have 6 heads and said, what are you, some kind of weirdo? And this is a man that was probably the first time he ever used the word weirdo. And he shifted everything over and almost fell over and broke his hip to make sure that he shook my hand with the right hand. Now, at the end of the day, does it matter which hand you shake hands with? No. But it was something that mattered to him. So what matters to you might not matter to your employer and vice versa, but you've got to play by their rules until it's your turn to make your own. So keep that in mind. What do you do? What are the global and cultural considerations, and what are the generational considerations? Is it authentic, or is it just comfortable for you? Oh, well, I'm just going to wear jeans to work. That's just me being me. Is it, or is it you just don't want to get dressed up? And it doesn't necessarily mean right. Some people go and make decisions based on, well, I'm not going to change, and again, not changing is not an authentic thing, because we grow and evolve every single day. And the authentic version of myself tomorrow will be more authentic than I am right now because I'm learning and I have a purpose. Which self are we presenting? Don't present your classroom self in your work environment. This is one of the saddest things, in addition to the 58% don't want to hire college graduates. Only 18% of people reported that they trusted business leaders to tell the truth. Also a thing for that shift between wealth and politics. People don't trust their politicians. Ever since the Gulf of Tonkin incident with Richard Nixon, people lost faith in politicians. And now the word politician kind of has a negative connotation to it, right? But you guys can change that. Young people can change that, right? Bring back trust, develop rapport, care about people as people, and they will do everything for you in the workplace. I encourage you, you want to talk about me being fortunate to impart wisdom upon to you, bring accountability back. Don't celebrate that seventh place swim team, right? Don't say, oh, well, you can take a makeup test. Here's the grade floor. Oh, you can turn that in late. Oh, we'll just have to wait on that project. Bring accountability back, because what's happened is, as a society, we've decided we need to get everybody over the bar. Well, the easiest way to do that is to put the bar on the ground, and everybody just steps right over it. But that doesn't make us any better. When I talked about Michael Jordan before, someone once asked him, how high can you jump? And you know what he said? As high as I need to. So guess what? If I raise that bar up, he's going to figure out a way to get over it. And that's what great leaders do. Do that. Bring accountability back. Raise the bar, but help people get over it. Ask your mentor to help you get over that bar and that level of excellence. Some people need a boost. Some people need the pole. Some people have to get thrown over a few times before they realize how to do it on their own. But I implore you to bring accountability back. And finally, if you really want to overcome age, think about the characteristics. Think about the fruit. What do people want in that apple? This is that apple. You can be the nicest person in the world that volunteers and takes care of their sick mother and does all these great things. Your employer does not care until you show them this stuff. And then that just magnifies how great you are. Be productive. Get stuff done. You're here at one of the top institutions in the world. You know how to get stuff done. Don't lose that when you go into a workplace because you get upset about, I'm not making enough money, or this isn't what people made it out to be. Be productive. Be respectful. No reason not to be. Is that going to hurt you ever, being respectful to somebody? Even if they do you wrong, is it going to make anything better for you being disrespectful? If it does, send me an email and let me know, because I have yet to hear of an example where that happens. Hold yourself accountable and hold others accountable, and hold yourself to a higher standard. Michael Phelps won 8 Olympic medals. Do you think anything was ever okay with him, or enough? Oh, that's fine. You think he ever used those words? No way. And he's done something that no one else has ever done, and maybe ever will. Hold yourself accountable. Be passionate. Go in there 1,500 times. Be like Rocky. Passion is never a bad thing. Everybody loves someone who's passionate about what they do. They're the most successful people in the world. Athletes, surgeons, teachers. You look at the most successful people in every category in the world, they are all passionate people. No one's ever like, okay, yeah, great. You know, the great quarterback is never like, let's go out there and play a game. You know, he gets everybody amped up. Let's go out and win one. And, you know, when the president gives speeches, they get people motivated and inspired. You know, a preacher, a reverend, anybody who is good at what they do is passionate. And finally, commit yourself to greatness. Again, you are here in a great university, a great institution, in a great program. Do the same for yourself and for your life. Your roots, your fruits, and everything else around it. Commit yourself to being great and being better every single day. Be a leader and create more leaders around you. Thank you guys very much for having me and for your time. I will take questions at this point.